Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, the Hut. Look at some Jacob deGrom headlines from Texas. Rangers ace Jacob deGrom throws again. Texas Rangers pitcher still hasn't thrown off a mound, and there isn't a timetable yet. The Jacob deGrom experience is a worrying thing. Let's get the Jacob deGrom injury conversation out of the way. Before we get into this video, I'm going to need you to subscribe to this channel and like this video. I do plenty of Mets content on here and Major League Baseball, and this is the kind of channel you want to subscribe to and follow. I'll give you everything you could possibly want out of a Mets channel. Trades, free agent signings, Mets history. I got everything here. So this is the channel you want to subscribe to. Now let's get into this video about Jacob deGrom, the former ace of the New York Mets. As you know, he signed a contract, a 5-year, $185 million contract with the Texas Rangers back in December of 2022. Now, he's had a long injury history, really since the start of his professional career. As you know, or you may not know, he had Tommy John surgery in 2010, 2011. He did, actually, interesting story, he did some of his rehab with the former ace of the Mets, Johan Santana, when Santana was out in 2011. So he actually learned a lot of stuff from Santana, but he's had a long history. He was hurting a little bit, I think, in 2014, his rookie year. He was hurt in 2016. He missed the last 6 weeks of the season. He had surgery after, I think, 2017 again. He was missed some time in 2018. He had dislocated his throwing shoulder. And he missed believe a start or two. He missed time in 2019. And 21, he missed half the season. Last year, he missed the first 4 months. So he's had a long, and the Hut means long, history of getting hurt. And he threw basically a side session with the Texas Rangers the other day, and they told him, Chris Young, the general manager, told him to shut it down. Shut it down. And he did. Now, he was able to play catch on Sunday. He was able to play catch on Monday. However, there's a problem. There is a problem, and there is concern on the part of the media down in Texas. All these headlines I read to you at the beginning of this video are different websites that really cover the Rangers down in Texas, down in Arlington. Let me read you this one, which was the last one I read to you. Headline, this is from the D Magazine. Let's get the Jacob deGrom injury conversation out of the way. This is the headline. Here's the subheadline. He's already had an injury scare. Hurt his side on last week. He's going to have a lot more. Isn't that encouraging if you're a Rangers fan? That's the cost of the Rangers getting the best pitcher in the game. It's well worth the risk. But if he misses half the season, it's not much of a risk. It was the precautionary decision heard round the world. In his 6th ramp-up bullpen session of the offseason, the last before the opening of the Rangers' first official workout of spring training, Jacob deGrom felt a little tightness in his left side. Not his throwing arm, even the throwing half, horizontally speaking, of his body, with south central Arizona temperatures an uncharacteristic 34 degrees. Rangers decision makers made a call that, given both his track record of physical setbacks and the club's hefty investment in him, they would push his first workout back a couple of days. The media hopscotched through the remnants of an overnight hail shower to follow up rapid tweets with full-blown stories. With deGrom especially, there's a significant mitigating factor. The raw narrative of his last few years is, on its own, not what you want. There have been injuries that start vague and outwardly minor and then expand to consume whole months without any convincing explanation. There has been serious worry and wear about parts of the body that are either unusual. He lost the first half to an injured scapular in 2022, or vexingly general. There was for the most part of deGrom's last 2 years with the Mets a persistent and reliably vinegary difference of opinion between the pitcher and his employers regarding not just how injured deGrom actually was, but whether he was injured at all. All that stuff is linked not just by its obvious ominousness, but by one of the great mitigating factor in all sports, which is Mets-related medical excrement. See, then they're going to blame the Mets. It's the Mets' fault. The confluence of the team's long-standing and self-thwarting institutional hostility towards its best and best-paid players and deGrom's own world historic personal orneriness often made it very hard to know what was even happening. It is hard to see an angle in Mets president Sandy Olson going out of the way clarified that the elbow inflammation that kept deGrom out of action 21 was in fact a sprained UCL. The lowest grade partial tear, if you will. It is also hard to credit deGrom's claim days later that the ligament was perfectly fine. If the Rangers' thought process in taking a chance on deGrom was weighed heavily towards let's just not do any of that and see how much better things get, it would be hard to blame them. It would be similarly hard to argue if deGrom's thought process in signing with Texas pivoted to some extent on the question, how much worse for my health could literally any other big league organization be? Now, I would mention this. The Mets did not give him a 5-year contract. The Rangers did. The Mets know Jacob's history more than anybody would. And the Mets did not give him a 5-year deal. Jacob wanted a 5-year deal, hella high water. And that's what the biggest issue here between him and the Mets. 2 years ago, prior to the 21 season, he wanted an extension. He wanted a 5-year deal from the Mets. And the Mets told him, no, we'll give you 3 years based on his history, based on his age. He's 35 years old. He's an older free agent. Okay, he reached free agency at an older year. Most guys, they get the free agency at 30, 31. Jacob is 35. So he has age against him in terms of the free agency and against his injury history over the last 2 years in particular. Now, I've been goofing on him to a certain degree, but the absurdity, and then you see these different articles castigating the Mets. The Mets have done a good job with their medical staff. Remember, folks, again, Carlos Correa did not sign here with the Mets because they didn't like his physical. They didn't like this issue with his leg. And Carlos Correa, over the course of a month, went from a $13 million contract to a 6-year contract and had lost $150 million. So the Mets are actually doing a better job with their evaluation of players in terms of their health. And nobody knows him better health-wise than the New York Mets. So we can goof on Jacob all we want, but the reality is he cannot stay on the field. And I'm going to talk about it as long as you want to watch these videos. And if you're going to subscribe, I welcome new subscribers on. He is a great pitcher when he pitches. He has been great here. He was great here with the Mets. Great. He, over the course of a certain period of time, he was probably the second greatest pitcher in Mets history. But he didn't do long enough here. He was constantly hurt. But over that period of time, he was the second best pitcher in Mets history. And we know who the best one is, or was. That's Tom Seaver. Over the course of 8 years, he's not that good. Doc pitched over 200 innings year after year after year after year. Jacob only did that twice in his career with the Mets, if I recall correctly off the top of my head. Constantly hurt, missing starts. Even in his Cy Young years, he missed starts. Also would mention this, he did not pitch great in September 2020. He had a chance to win three Cy Young Awards. His first month was excellent. September was not great. It was okay. Last year, when he came back from his scapular injury, he was great in August. He was one of the best pitchers in the game. But September, he was terrible here. Terrible. He pitched a game in Oakland. They beat the hell out of him. He didn't have good stuff, and he struggled to get ahead in the count. This is the thing. If you're a Rangers fan, you got to understand about him as a pitcher. Okay? He's very difficult for hitters to hit, but if he doesn't have his good stuff, he gives up a lot of foul balls. If he gives up a lot of foul balls in a game, it's going to be a long game for him. That's his history. That was his history when he came up to the big leagues, when he was trying to find how to be a pitcher. That was the big problem in 2017. He had a lot of games where a lot of foul balls. When that happens in a game with him, he's not going to have a good game. And he's had bad games here, over the years. Here, 8 years, he's going to have bad games. But if you're a Rangers fan, understand that. If he doesn't have his good stuff, a lot of foul balls, and he has a tough time putting hitters away. I mean, but when he's on, there's nobody better in the history of the game. But he can't stay healthy, and it's a major problem for him. It's not a problem here for us Met fans now. The Mets have decided to do certain things with these free agents. They are not giving free agent pitchers at a certain age more than 3 years. And if they give them 3 years, they give them outs after the second year. Max Scherzer is probably going to opt out after this offseason. Justin Verlander has a 2-year deal. Okay? The only reason Kodai Senga got a 5-year deal is because there was an issue with his physical, and he's much younger. He's 29. So the Mets are trying to be very consistent about these contracts. They've only really given out one big contract to a guy who never played here, and that was Francisco Lindor. Everybody else that they've given big contracts to have been here. Edwin Diaz, he was here. Brandon Nimmo, he got the biggest contract. 8-year contract. But he'd been here for 6 years with the Mets and was here in the minor leagues with the Mets. He's going to end his career with the Mets. But with Jake being 35 years old, they didn't feel comfortable giving him a 5-year deal with his background and his history of injuries. You let me know what you think about this video. Please subscribe to the Baseball Hut, and I'll see you later. Now, I love talking about baseball, and particularly I love talking about the New York Mets. So if you want to follow a channel that loves those two things, this is really the channel you need to subscribe to. I know a lot about the Mets, a lot about baseball, and we can talk about it here, and I can learn from you, you can learn from me. I do talk to people, I write to people on a regular basis when you write to me. And of course, I do all kinds of videos. There are weekly live streams, there are shorts. I would mention I have merchandise on the channel, that please go check it out. I have plenty of baseball caps that you might be interested with the Baseball Hut logo on it. So I want to thank you all for coming by. Please subscribe to the Baseball Hut. Thank you, and I'll see you later.